While millions of people are posting matching pajama photos, crying happy tears over the dinner table, there's a massive group of people quietly dreading every single second of it. And according to psychologists, their reaction isn't just valid, it's deeply, fascinatingly predictable. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you see the people in your life who go quiet every time a family gathering gets mentioned, yourself included. Here's what nobody tells you. Hating family gatherings has almost nothing to do with hating your family. It's not about being cold. It's not about being ungrateful. And it is definitely not about being broken. But something very specific is happening in your psychology. A collision between your nervous system, your family's dynamics, and a set of societal expectations so loud they drown out everything else. And once you understand it, you can never unsee it. Let's start with the body, because this is where it begins. For roughly a third of the population, what we call introverts, a family gathering isn't a recharge event. It's a drain event. Multiple conversations happening simultaneously, loud kids, overlapping voices, the smell of 17 different dishes, someone's television blaring football in the background. For most people, that's festive. For introverts, that's what psychologists call sensory overload, and it's genuinely exhausting at a neurological level. Their brains process stimulation more deeply. The same environment that energizes an extrovert is literally more cognitively expensive for them to navigate. By hour 2, they're not being rude. They're running on fumes. And then there's a specific subset called highly sensitive people, HSPs, who experience something even more extreme. For them, the sensory inputs at a family gathering aren't just tiring. They can be physically painful. The clashing smells, the overlapping noise, the emotional temperature of 20 people in one room. Their nervous systems pick up everything. Research suggests that HSPs make up about 15 to 20% of the population, and that their sensitivity is neurological, not a personality flaw. It's not that they're weak. Their brains are running a higher resolution scan of every room they walk into. That's exhausting in the wrong environment. But here's where it gets really interesting, because introversion and sensitivity only explain part of the picture. There's a psychological phenomenon called the regression effect, and it's one of the most quietly devastating things that happens to adults at family gatherings. The moment you walk through your parents' front door, something shifts. The dynamic you've spent years building, your confidence, your adult identity, your autonomy, it starts to collapse. Suddenly, you're being talked over at the table the same way you were at 14. Suddenly, your opinions are being dismissed by the same people who used to put you to bed. Suddenly, you're the kid again, even though you haven't been the kid in 20 years. Psychologists studying family systems theory describe the family as an emotional unit with its own rules, its own gravitational pull. And one of the cruelest things about that pull is that it doesn't care how much you've grown. The family system remembers who you were, not who you are. So, if you were the scapegoat, the black sheep, the one who never quite fit walking back into that room, means walking back into that role. And for a lot of people, that role is one they've spent years, sometimes decades, trying to outgrow. No wonder they dread the invitation. Here's the part that sounds contradictory. The families that struggle most aren't always the obviously toxic ones. Psychologists identify two distinct family dynamics that both produce dread, just for different reasons. The first is called enmeshment, where there are no real boundaries, where everyone is expected to feel the same, agree the same, vote the same, believe the same. Gathering dread in these families is a fight for identity. You know that the moment you walk in, you'll be expected to perform a version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore. The second is called disengagement, emotionally cold families where gatherings feel hollow and performative. Like being at a work event with people who share your last name. Neither one is safe. Both are exhausting, and both are incredibly common. And then there's the specific stuff that happens at the table. Boundary violations, the unsolicited comments about your weight, your relationship status, your career, your life choices, delivered with a smile and dressed up as concern. For many people, a family gathering is the one place in their lives where their no is routinely ignored, where their choices are treated as public property, where the year's worth of progress they've made in therapy can be undone in a single dinner conversation. Research on psychological safety consistently shows that environments where your limits aren't respected produce a stress response almost identical to physical threat. Your body literally reads it as danger. And then there's what psychologists call toxic positivity, the "but they're family" defense. That invisible force that invalidates every legitimate grievance before it can even be spoken. You can't bring up the thing that hurt you because it's Christmas. You can't set a limit because that would ruin the holiday. You can't feel what you feel because everyone's trying so hard. So you smile, you perform, you get through it. And that performance that sustained mask wearing for hours is one of the most psychologically draining things a human being can do. But here's the layer underneath all of it that most people never talk about: the guilt. Psychologists describe what they call the societal expectation gap. Society sells us a very specific script about family warmth, belonging, unconditional love, laughter, safety. And when your reality doesn't match that script, when your gatherings feel more like a performance review than a homecoming, the gap between what you think you should feel and what you actually feel creates a specific kind of internal suffering. You don't just dread the gathering, you feel guilty for dreading it. And then you resent the guilt. And then you dread going because you know the guilt is coming. Social media makes it worse. Seeing curated photos of perfect family moments during the holidays isn't just annoying. It measurably increases the sense that something is wrong with you, specifically with your family, which means specifically with you. You're not just dreading a dinner. You're mourning a version of family life that you're starting to suspect you'll never have. So what do people actually do? How do they survive? The psychology of coping in these environments is quietly brilliant. There's a technique called gray rocking, making yourself as uninteresting as possible to avoid becoming the target of intrusive questions or drama. You give short, dull answers. You offer nothing to grab onto. You become essentially unreadable. It's a protective strategy and it works. There's the exit strategy, arriving with a pre-planned, socially acceptable reason to leave early. The psychological research on agency shows that having an out, even one you never use, dramatically reduces the anxiety of being trapped. Just knowing the door exists makes the room feel less suffocating. And there's dissociation, the phone, the dog, the kid in the corner who also looks like they'd rather be anywhere else. It's not rudeness, it's self-preservation. None of this means the gatherings are hopeless. The research on healthy family dynamics is actually pretty clear on what makes the difference. The presence of real respect for boundaries, communication that's curious rather than critical, the ability to see someone as the adult they are now instead of the child they once were, conflict that gets addressed instead of buried. Those aren't luxuries. They're the conditions under which a gathering stops being a gauntlet and starts being something worth showing up for. But here's what's important to understand. If you feel dread every time that group chat comes alive with holiday logistics, you're not defective. You're not selfish. You're not a bad son or daughter or sibling or cousin. Your nervous system is responding to a specific environment, with a specific history, in a specific family system that has its own specific rules. That's not character failure. That's psychology. Your brain learned to dread that room because that room taught it to. And the fact that you can name that you can see the pattern and understand it, is not a small thing. That self-awareness is the beginning of choosing something different, even if different just means arriving with better armor, a shorter timeline, and the quiet knowledge that you're not the problem. You're not broken, you're not cold. You're just someone whose family system cost more than it gave. And that's a harder truth than anyone puts in the holiday commercials. If this resonated with you, you're probably going to find it just as fascinating to understand why highly sensitive people see the world in ways others completely miss, and why that wiring might be one of the most underrated advantages a person can have. Click this video to find out why you feel everything just a little more deeply than everyone else.